Hello, good morning. Good morning. My name is Erica LaShawn. Thank you for stopping by. It is August 12th, 2022. It is 1:17 a.m. That's why I said August 12th, because it is a new day. But I'm still up. It's 1:18 a.m. Um, so I gotta be to work at 8 a.m. tomorrow. But anyway, I'm up. Anyway, so hi, my name is Erica LaShawn. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you're new here, thank you for stopping by. If not, thank you for stopping by. So this topic is it's kind of something that I want to know more about, but I'm like, screw it, do it. Hmm. So, this topic is about the fly. Okay. So, we all, a lot of us get on airplanes and fly. Um, m- More than likely, we land safely. We do. Some don't. And this topic, it's about, I'm going to call this, um, suicide by pilot. And that's really unsettling. Yeah, suicide by pilot is really unsettling. I'm going to talk about it. First off, let me talk about how I think a few years ago I went to a family reunion. This is 2019. Went to a family reunion in Atlanta. It went well. Came home. On our way back, the I think it was Spirit or I'm pretty sure it was Spirit because I made a formal complaint. Um, Maybe I'm mixing the airlines up, but anyway, I made a formal complaint because when we were taking off, you know how the flight attendants, they do a demonstration of safety demonstration and things like that. You know, they show you this, that, in case of an emergency, do this, do that, whatever. It was Spirit. All right. So anyway, I noticed as the flight attendants were doing their demonstration, and whoever was on the microphone started making jokes about crashing. And I swear to God, if I was in shock because I would have recorded it. But anyway, when the flight attendants were doing their um, demonstration on how to be safe, uh, whoever was on the mic, excuse me, they were making jokes about crashing. So I was like, oh my God, this is, um, and I've made formal complaints. I've gone to the BBB, I've gone to their company itself, and I went to Yelp. So three different places I went to make my voice heard. But before we took off, they were doing their routine, safety uh, speech, and they were just joking about it. So I was sitting there like, okay, and they were like, yeah, because certain people sitting by the exit, if you're sitting by that exit area, you basically are like saying, okay, I'll help people, and they make sure that you know that. So when you're sitting in that area, they are expecting you to be responsible for others. I think that's good. I think it's good. Guess what? If this is going to hell in a handbasket, if we going down just because I said I would help, listen, I'm getting out. I'm out. I'm out. So anyway, so when we were coming back to New York, they were joking about crashing. They were saying things like, um, you know, they went through the standard dialogue, but then the joke would pop in, And it's like, well, you guys are going to be scrambling all over each other to get out. So you might as well, it was like weird. It was weird. So I was sitting there thinking like, is this for real? And then they was like, yeah, well, you should have flown Delta. It was like these weird comments coming from the speakers out whoever was on the mic. It was weird. They were saying things like, yeah, you know, it was like really weird because it was crashing. The banter, it wasn't banter because no one was talking to them. It was them talking about crashing, making jokes about crashing during their speech. So when I got home, I was Johnny on the spot, and I made sure to let whoever I knew. I just want to make people aware that, listen, when your employees are having people on their flights, they're doing this. They're making jokes. This was a flight that I was on. There are people who are scared to death to fly, like for real. So how you gonna get up in front of everybody and make jokes about crashing, and you have no idea how many people have phobias or fears or different things when it comes to flying? So why would you get up and do something like that? And that's what I made known to whoever I complained to. It's not funny. So anyway, that it leads me to this topic, Malaysia. This was in put my glasses on, I'm sorry. This was in there was a flight, March 2014. So in March 8th 2014, there was a flight going to Malaysia, flight 370. And I said suicide by pilot because that's where we're going. So I'm gonna hit on Malaysia real quick, and I'm gonna get into that. But as far as this flight, when this hit the news, it's still unsolved. Malaysia Airlines flight 370. First of all, this plane, to present date, has never been found. Bodies have never been found. And I think I heard something about like pieces of the plane were found. I don't know. Where is the plane? Where are the people? That's all I'm trying to say. So this was in 2014. Where is the plane? Where are the people? There are no traces. It almost reminds me of like the Bermuda Triangle. I'm scared to do that. I'm like, I don't know. Cruises will go through the Bermuda Triangle. It's like, oh my God. Anyway, so let's get to it. Malaysia Airlines flight 370 disappeared on March 8th, 2014 after departing from Kuala Lumpur, Kualalumpur, Kuala Lumpur, for Beijing, with 227 passengers and 12 crew members on board. Malaysia's former Prime Minister Najib Razak, Najib Razak, stated that the aircraft's flight ended somewhere in the Indian Ocean, but no further explanation has been given, despite searchers finding debris considered with strong certainty to originate from the crash. Official announcements were questioned by many critics, and several theories about the disappearance were proposed. Some of these theories were described as conspiracy theories. So, all right, so this is in 2014. I remember when it happened. It's kind of like, okay, what happened? We still don't know. Background. Victims' relatives, this is from Wikipedia. Victims' relatives questioned the veracity of the Malaysian government's statements about the demise of the aircraft and organized a protest at the Malaysian embassy in Beijing with the goal of forcing the Malaysian government to reveal any withheld information about Flight 370's whereabouts. I don't think these families know to this day, but well, Rob Brotherton, Brotherton, a lecturer in psychology at Goldsmith University in London, wrote that conspiracy theories emerge immediately after any catastrophic occurs, and conclusive information about why do certain remains are unavailable. Andrew Leonard wrote that conspiracy theorists were bolstered by the revelation of new satellite data 2 weeks after the flight disappeared that had been hidden from the public. Okay, all right, so I gotta sift through this because Wikipedia will take you through the whole shebang. Criticism and response. Conspiracy focused internet sites claim that the official statement that the plane crashed into the Indian Ocean is a quote, unquote, a brilliant cover up, unquote. They note that Boeing 777 does not have the structural integrity to survive crashing into the ocean. So back to Boeing, I don't know, I heard somebody say it, it stuck with me. I heard somebody say, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. So Boeing, Boeing, they are well known to have good planes. So I heard somebody saying, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. So whatever. Um, Back to the info. If Flight 370 hit the ocean, they say, it would have been broken into tens of thousands of pieces, many of which float on water, in parentheses, such as the seat cushions, and would be seen washing up on regional shores or easily spotted by search teams. Those criticisms diminished after several pieces of the aircraft were positively identified in the years after its disappearance. So I guess they found stuff like seats. What about bodies? Harvard professor Cass Sunstein noted that the conflicting information initially released by the Malaysian government explains the interest in alternative theories. Sunstein, who has written on the theories in general, often are born out of the I just skipped, I'm sorry. Who has written on the topic, agreed in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, also on March 20th, 2014, that conspiracy theories in general often are born out of horrific and disastrous situations because such events make people angry, fearful, and looking for a target. I'm gonna really go through this. It goes into terroristic stuff, hijacking, stuff like that. I'm just here for the missing plane, but oh gosh, and I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna keep going. Crew suicide hijacking. So let's stay on focus. This is still a thing, and it's like, where are they said they found stuff, and I did see that on the news. They found some stuff, but what's okay? Crew suicide hijacking. The cockpit had the mandated anti-hijacker fortified doors that could prevent locked out crew or passengers from entering with a suicide or hijacking into the Southern Ocean. This can be compared to Silk Air Flight 185. It's a bunch of flights in parentheses. Egypt Air, Lamb, another flight, all these flights. On February 17th, 2014, less than 3 weeks before Flight 370 disappeared, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 702 had been hijacked when the co-pilot locked the captain's door, had been hijacked when the co-pilot locked the cabinet out of the cabin and diverted the craft to seek asylum in Switzerland. I didn't bit off more than I could chew. It's more to this. Oh God, it's more to this. Oh my goodness, it's really more to this, like hijacking and stuff like that. Excuse the paper flipping. Oh God. All right. I gotta move on, and I'll come back. This literature is from, it's called Television. I don't know. It was posted by Nick Morrison, May 30th, 2022. And the heading is Disappearance of Flight MH370. Theories explained. What people think happened to the Malaysia Airlines plane. Well, you know I have issues with paper and stuff getting cut off, but all right, I'm jumping in. 7 minutes after its scheduled departure time, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur. I said that earlier. I may have mispronounced it. Bound for Beijing. So on for the 5.5-hour flight, in which it had enough fuel for another 2 hours flying. There were 2 pilots, 10 captain crew, and 227 passengers. So 20 minutes later, MH370 had climbed to its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, and 20 minutes after that, Captain Zahir, Z-A-H-A-R-I-E, Ahmed Sai, S-H-A-H, said goodbye to Malaysian air traffic control as the plane entered Vietnamese airspace. So 20 minutes later, the captain, Zaire, he said goodbye. Okay. Apart from signals from the plane's navigational system, that was the last time anyone heard from Flight MH370. 2 minutes later, it disappeared from radar screens. So, it began one of the most enduring mysteries in aviation history. The disappearance of Flight MH370 on March 8th, 2014 sparked not only the biggest ever search for missing aircraft, but also a host of theories, some more bizarre than others, over what happened to a plane that vanished with no apparent explanation. All right. Many of these theories are explored in a new Channel 5 documentary called The Disappearance of Flight MH370, 14 Days That Gripped the World, which airs this week. Yada, okay, yada, yada. Data from satellites and military radar established that shortly after contact was lost, the plane changed course. Instead of continuing northwest over the South China Sea and towards China, it headed southwest over the Malay Peninsula and into the Indian Sea. The last contact with the plane's satellite communications system was at 8:19 a.m. local time, almost 8 hours after takeoff, putting it over the Indian Ocean as well away from any potential landing sites. There is little doubt that the plane crashed. We know it crashed. We know that. Hyphen. Debris from MH370 has been found as far away as Tanzania in East Africa, but even 8 years later, there is little consensus of what happened. The bulk of the wreckage has not been found, and nor has the flight recorder, that black box, despite an extensive search over enormous stretch of ocean. So this for real. Okay, in the first scenario, the pilots changed course to look for an emergency landing after calamity struck, such as a fire in a cockpit. Then a sudden loss of oxygen, hypoxia, HYPOXIA, caused them to black out. The plane flew on autopilot on its new course until it ran out of fuel. Aviation experts used the recovered debris to conclude that the plane was most likely almost vertical when it hit water, leading support to the ideal that it crashed when it ran out of fuel. I really don't. Okay. But evidence that has happened to MH370 has yet to emerge, nor does this theory explain the change of course and the long and apparently unhinged flight over the Indian Ocean. It talks about the turnaround. A second theory is that the plane was deliberately thrown off course in a pilot suicide. Just over a year after MH370's disappearance, the co pilot of the German Wings aircraft deliberately crashed into the French Alps, killing all 150 passengers and crew, pointing to the possibility of pilots choosing to end their lives this way. Captain Shah, I mentioned him earlier, Shah, SHAH. His wife and children had moved out of the family home the day before the plane's disappearance, and a route plotted on the captain's home flight. Similar closely followed that taken on the MH370's voyage. The sudden turn, oh my God, the sudden turn southwest also took the plane over Penang, Penang, the captain's home island. But Captain Shah's family, they refute the suggestion that he was suicidal. and there was no proof that he plotted the flight. He plotted the flight similar course. In 2014, in a 2014 book advancing this theory, the authors admitted there was no conclusive evidence to support it. Um, only he knows. Um, only he knows. The intervening years have been several other theories put forward, some of which were subsequently refuted as more evidence came to light, but others still remain on the table, even if some are at the margins of possibility. Okay, so people are just not, some buying it, some not. Oh, I just got off a plane. Some investigators have raised the possibility of hijacking, with the plane set on a course for a remote runway, but perhaps having to be ditched when it ran out of fuel. However, again, no group has claimed responsibility. I don't have a problem with flying. I really don't. I like to stay up all night. Depending on when my flight leaves, I like to tire myself out so that when I get on the plane, I'm in a coma. And I'll see you when we land. And that's my mindset. I'm out. I'm out. And I'll see you when I wake up. If not, I'm asleep anyway. I just kind of think that way. And I like takeoff. That's kind of like my favorite part of it. Because you go really, really fast. So I like that. But once we up there, we up there. And one time I was on a flight coming home. I probably went home to Michigan, I'm sure. But the turbulence was horrible to the point where I was afraid. And it was like a 3-seat, it was 3 of us in one little row. It was me and these 2 white guys, and we had a ball. And thank you guys, because we were not comfortable. So they made sure they was ordering rounds. That's how serious it was. And we were straight up like, cheers on them. Cheers. And they were joking, saying, and I was laughing. Hell. It was not funny, but it was, you buying. Okay. And the one that was sitting next to me, I was holding his hand. We was holding hands. That's how serious the turbulence was. I was like, you know what? If this is it, this is it. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. And they wasn't making it no better, because they was like, we ready. Let's go. Sick humor, but it helped get us through. We landed. I'm here. I'm safe. Anyway, that could be a scary experience, especially for people who are uncomfortable with flying. They get some bad turbulence. That's it. I'm still stuck on Aaliyah. I miss Aaliyah. I'm not getting into that. So, hijacking. That could be a possibility. Another option that has been floated is that the cyber attack, we still on hijacking, the cyber attack that either took control of the plane or disabled the systems. There's a lot of conspiracies about this. In 2013, a former pilot claimed that he had developed an app that could hijack a plane remotely, but the U.S. Federal Aviation Authority dismissed this likelihood of this happening, saying the plane's software was different from the software used to test the app. He tried to tell you. Somebody tried to tell you now. 9/11, don't get me started. I remember the exact day, time, what I was doing. Nobody thought that would happen. So when you're on a plane, you don't, whatever. In the wake of MH370's disappearance, new regulations aim to make it easier to establish what happened in similar circumstances, including a requirement for aircraft manufacturers to provide a way of recovering flight recorders before they sink beneath the waves. So back to pilots in this black box and stuff like that. I was watching the news, and some airline, I forgot what it was, they were coming out saying, listen, we have a uh, don't ask, don't tell type of policy. And they make it open for pilots to anonymously share mistakes that they make when they fly. And it's anonymous, so nobody gets in trouble. But pilots, some airlines have it where pilots can say, listen, you know, this is what I did, this is what happened, whatever. And they try to correct it. I think that's a good policy because sometimes you may not be able to share. You want to keep your job, but your conscience is beating up on you. So you like say, listen, I was totally drunk when I flew. And we've seen stories about that. Pilots that cannot fly, someone notices something. One show that I like to watch, they haven't done it in a while. They'll bring it back. But what would you do? I think 2020 does it. What would you do? Quinones. John Quinones. That's my show. And side note, I think his name is John. It may not be. I don't know. Quinones. Whatever. He's a correspondent with 2020 and he does the What Would You Do series. I love it. And I love it because they did a piece on him. I was like, oh, they followed his whole life. He came to the U.S. He couldn't speak a lick of English. And he said he would watch TV and learn English by watching television in the U.S. And then he got into school and whatever. He on 2020. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So when I hear people say, I can't do this, I can't do that, yeah, whatever. Okay, whatever. If I told you I got $1 million and I hid it and here's a map, go find it. You will find it. So when I hear people talk about I can't do this, I can't do that, I bet if I told you I had $1 million for you over there, here's a map, I bet you'll find it. So when I hear people say I can't do that, whatever, child, whatever. So Quinones, oh, what would you do? And they set you up. It's kind of like Candid Camera, but it's not really funny. But it's like, what would you do? And you are, in situations. I'm sure you sign a release after it's done, because if not, that's when you see the pixel. That's when you see their face blurred out. Somebody said, I ain't trying to be seen on here. But when you see people on TV, they have signed a release, and they'll give them $300. Scale, whatever. Sorry, I'm burping. $200, $300, whatever scale is, that's like the basic rate. Whatever that is, when you watching this, whatever you watching, the first 48 and all that stuff, if they face blurred out, they mean it. They like, I ain't trying to be seen. If you could see their face, they say, okay, give me $200, give me $300, give me, okay, fine. So Quinones did a piece on what would you do, and they set it up where there were two actors that were dressed as pilots. They had the hat, the gear, the whole thing, and they was at the bar. And the actors were told to get loose, appear that you are intoxicated, even though you have on your whole uniform appear as if you're intoxicated, and we'll see what happens. And these two pilots, they were sitting there, they were actors, and they were instructed to pretend that they were under the influence to see what would happen. And some people didn't do anything. Some people did. Some people, they did. So it was like, what would you do if you were out and you saw a pilot chilling at the bar? He at work. He at work. What would you do? Would you go up to them? Would you say something? Whatever. So back to this. And I had a brief conversation with a pilot one time. I feel we were the same trip we were going, and it was a pilot in line. We were grabbing a snack or something, and I couldn't help myself. I said, "How do you feel?" Because that's me. Because I will strike a conversation up and be like, "So this is awesome." Like, I will do that. So I struck up a conversation with a pilot, and I said, how is it? What is it like to fly a plane? And he was just like, it's cool. He said he he didn't have any negative things to say about it. I said, are you scared? Are you afraid? He was like, no. Basically he was like, just, this is what I do. Whatever. So I had a quick conversation with a pilot, because I'm just like, for real? You really be doing this for a living? Flight attendants as well. When I fly, I look at them flight attendants and I be like, this is your job. Male or female. I be looking at them like, wow, are you afraid? And I bet they will say no. I've never talked to one, but I bet if you talk to a flight attendant, they may say no. They may say no. I hope they say no. But I'm giggling because there was a firefighter here in New York a few years ago. Many, not when I say many, years ago, and he was a firefighter and he was afraid to work. And it made the news because they caught him hiding while the fire was happening. Straight up. They caught him. The fire, everybody running around, and they caught him on the side of the truck just hanging out. Just hanging out. So I don't know if he resigned, or I'm not sure what happened with that, but every job that you do, some of these people can't do what they be doing. Police officers, firefighters, doctors, lawyers, CPS workers, hello. You can't do this. You cannot do this. You know what I'm saying? And certain people get into certain jobs and they really be like, I can't do this, but they in it. So this firefighter, he was caught hiding behind a truck during the fire. But anyway, back to flight attendants and pilots. So, and my heart goes out to the whole 9/11 situation. We all in New York, we lived it. The world lives it. We know. And I remember the day. It was on a Tuesday. And I was off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So I was just chilling. And I'm watching my show, whatever show it was. And out of nowhere, my show was interrupted by breaking news. So when my show was interrupted, the first plane had already hit the first tower. So I'm sitting there looking like, and my first thought was, wow, somebody made a mistake. That was my first thought. Somebody, a pilot made a mistake. That's how it popped on my screen. So I'm thinking like, oh gosh, somebody made a mistake. And then as I'm watching in real time, the second plane was like, boom, as I'm looking at my TV. So I can hear the news people, the news people at the desk. I could hear them. You couldn't see them, but they had it panned out to when I saw that second plane come around and was like, boom, the news people, they started freaking out. So I could hear them saying, oh my God, God, what's going? They was freaking out. So I'm watching TV, watching them freak out, watch something else happen. So I'm sitting there thinking, like, what in the world is going on? That's my 9/11 experience. And I sat there, and my first thought was, call your mother. God, call your mother. So I called my mother. She was at work. She's retired now. That's how long it's been. She's retired now, but I knew she was at work. I knew I couldn't get her, but I called my mother and I said, "Ma, something is going on here. I just want to let you know I'm home. I'm here. I'm safe. Give me a call when you get back, when you get home, whatever." So I left that message, which I'm glad I did, because after that, the mayhem, the madness, we couldn't, cell phones were not working. Cell phones were not working. So my electricity was on, but when I would try to call back, it was it was that short, busy sound. So I could not get through. And I just sat back and I was like, okay, I'm glad I left her the message, because if she called me, she not going to get me. So I was like, okay. And then when I later caught up to her, after all the dust had settled, she said, well, when I got home, I was glad to hear your message, because when I was at work, it was like breaking news. This is in Michigan, Romulus. My mother worked in Romulus, Michigan. Her plant was in Romulus. So she said that she was at work and it was breaking news. And she said that she was upset at work, and she would get herself together. And she said a coworker would be like, Jean, don't your daughter live in New York? And then she said she would break down. And then she would get up, get herself back together. And another coworker would say, Jean, your daughter live out there, right? And then she would break down. So she said, Erica, it was a whole day of not knowing. And she said, as soon as I got myself together, one of my coworkers would say, wait a minute, they just, whatever. And she would break down again. So her work day was messed up. So she said when she got home, she was able to hear me say, Ma, I know what you're hearing. I'm here and I'm safe. So anyway, so that's a good thing. But anyway, yeah, I worked in that area. I used to work for Covenant House. It's a shelter for teens. But I worked in a place where we have Covenant House. Covenant House has a place near Times Square. It's like a hot spot. It's like a crisis center. So a teen can show up out of nowhere, and Covenant House will take them in. That's just their policy. It's just what it is. I worked for Covenant House, but I worked in a different program called the ROP program, Rites of Passage. So this different division of Covenant House was for teens that are serious about their future. Sometimes when you young and you is ass out, there are some young people, there are some teens that get it together, and they really make the best of it. And I like those them type of teens. They be like, you know what? I know it's crappy. I know it's messed up, and I'm going to change it. So I worked in the ROP program, which was right by the site. Close, in near proximity, but whatever. Anyway, so when I came back to work, I was off on Tuesday and Wednesday. So maybe Thursday, when I came back to work, I'm like, y'all. And they was like, they said the kids came back. Because during the day, they can't stay there. It's not a hotel. You're just not going to stay here. It's not a hotel. You have to go out and look for work. That's part of their program. You have to go out and look for work, seek work, or look for an apartment, do something. So our kids, the kids can't stay in there. They got to get out like by 9 a.m. or whatever time. They have to go out into the world and do something. But anyway, so when I got back to work, my coworkers were like, the kids were coming back covered in soot. They were gray. They were covered in soot, and they came back or whatever. I was off that day, but anyway, where am I going with this? Pilots, flight attendants, 9/11. All right, so that was my first thought. So let me move on to suicide by pilot, because at first I thought it was a mistake, and then later stuff comes out. We know the story. Pilot by suicide by pilot. Suicide by pilot, this is from Wikipedia, is an aviation event in which a pilot deliberately crashes or attempts to crash an aircraft in a suicidal attempt, sometimes to kill passengers on board or people on board. This is sometimes described as a murder-suicide. It is suspected as being a possible cause of the crashes of several commercial flights and is confirmed as a cause in others. Generally, it is difficult for crash investigators to determine the motives of the pilots, since they sometimes act deliberately to turn off recording devices or otherwise hinder further investigations. As a result, pilot suicide can be difficult to prove with certainty. That is very scary, because you never know what a person is thinking. And we all trying to go to Hawaii, we trying to go to Jamaica, Mexico. We trying to turn up. And little do you know, the pilot is, his wife left him. Her husband left her. Her husband left her. There's female pilots too. Whatever. And they get up and go to work. Just like anybody else. Scary. It's as scary as having a doctor operate on you and cut on you and ain't had a lick of school. I may talk about that later. People that have not been trained properly and they're operating on you. Anyway, back to pilots. Investigators do not qualify aircraft incidents as suicide unless there is compelling evidence that the pilot was doing so. You really won't know. You really won't know if someone is feeling suicidal. They could just get up and go to work, and that's it. This evidence would include suicide notes, previous attempts, threats of suicide, or a history of mental illness. In a study of pilot suicides from 2002 to 2013, 8 crashes were identified as definite suicides, with 5 additional causes of undetermined cause that may have been suicides. Investigators may also work with terrorism experts, checking for links to rule out groups to try to determine whether the suicide was an act of terrorism. Oh my God, you just don't know. You really don't know. Are they feeling this way? Are they a part of a terroristic group? And they assign this person. They're like, yeah, I know you work for, such and such. It's your turn. And they like, okay, Oh my God. Most cases of suicide by pilot involve general aviation and small aircrafts. In most of these, the pilot is the only person on board in the aircraft, on the small ones. Okay. In about half of the cases, the pilot has used drugs, usually alcohol or antidepressants, which would normally have led them to a flying ban. Uh, Many of these pilots have had mental illness histories that they have hidden from regulators. Oh gosh, why am I reading this? Well, you never know. Uh, it goes into World War II attacks. Uh, yeah, um, yeah, it's a whole bunch. Wikipedia, they, it's grids and stuff like that. I am not about to. I can't do it. It's too much. Hold on. It ain't never too much. Never too much. Never too much. Luther. It ain't never too much. This grid, list of declared or suspected pilot suicides. So what I'm skipping over is a bunch of flights and dates and what happened. I don't want to scare myself. Oh my God. No, I don't want to scare myself. And March 27th, 1972, there's a pilot, General Aviation. It's a stolen aircraft. Facilities, one pilot. You stole theory. He has a Timofey Shafvanov, Timoeishov crashed an aviator in AN2 into his own apartment. He was the lone he was cause that he was the only one that died. A movie actor. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this because it's gonna scare me. But that's what it's all about, right? Anyway. Okay, so I can't. It's a couple of stolen aircrafts. People be stealing planes. August 27th, 1979, General Aviation, stolen aircraft, 4 people, 4, pilot, 3 on the ground. A 23-year-old aircraft mechanic working at Bogota El Dorado Airport stole a Hawker Siddeley HS-748 and crashed into a Bogota suburb. After an argument with his wife and his mother-in-law, Brazil. Oh, this is somebody else. Brazilian pilot Mauro Milhomem, Milhomem, attempted to crash his Emperor EMP 721 Sertangano, which was also carrying 4 passengers, into a hotel owned by a family member after he discovered that his wife had cheated on him. He failed to hit the hotel and instead hit several objects before crashing the plane into another building. His wife killed herself a few days later. In total, 7 people were killed and 4 were wounded. I'm not gonna it's a whole grid that it's a whole bunch of stuff starting from 1972 to 2022. March 21st, 2022, pilot, commercial flight, China Eastern Airlines, flight 5735, fatalities 132. Theories. On May 17th, the Wall Street Journal reported that investigators believe that the airliner was intentionally crashed. There was no response to repeated calls from air traffic controllers. Chinese investigators found no major safety problems, and China Western resumed flying the Boeing 737-800 in April after grounding its fleet for nearly a month. Cockpit intrusion was also considered, but China Eastern said it was unlikely and no emergency signal had been received. Okay, so listen, it's from what I'm just gathering. They know, but they don't know, and guess what? You don't know if you don't know. So, that is scary. You get on a plane. Oh, and you don't know how the pilot is feeling. This could be lights out. And unfortunately, you going to. No. Nah. Back to the Malaysia Airline Flight 370 crew side hijacking. The cockpit had the mandated anti-hijacker fortified doors that could prevent locked out crew or passengers from interfering with a suicide or hijacking into Southern Ocean. So I'm on the Malaysian flight. This can be compared to the Silk Air Flight 185. Oh, they don't know, and they don't know what they found some pieces. They said they found fire. It's a different a lot of different hypotheses here. Fire. A number of theories suggest that the disappearance may have been the result of a fire in the cockpit cargo compartment, landing gear, or another part of the plane. Yeah, but you would think. Another suggestion is that the pilots had turned back and were attempting an emergency landing at the nearest suitable airport in northern Malaysia, perhaps Penang, Penang International Airport, or Langkawi, Langkawi International Airport, a 13,000-foot airstrip with an approach. Oh, okay. They thought that. Okay, I don't know. It's a bunch of theories. Shoot down hypothesis. American political commentator Rush Limbaugh, according to CNN, speculated that the aircraft may have been shot down. Supporters of this theory have been noted that civilian aircraft may have been shot down by military forces in the past. Okay. Cyber attack. That's another hypothesis. The hypothesis that a cyber attack may have been carried out on Flight 370, primarily based on statements made by Sally Leavesley, Leivsley, a former scientific advisor to the U.S. government. Whether existing security on commercial flights is sufficient to prevent such an attack is also a matter of debate, although Boeing has dismissed this possibility. Scary. I'm hitting 1 hour. which is good. I think that's good. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm scaring myself. We're at 1 hour. Good. I'm going to call it a day. Oh, God. There's little doubt that the plane crashed. I'm still on Malaysia 370. There's little doubt that the plane crashed. Debris from MH370 has been found as far away as... Oh, I said that. Oh, okay. All right. I'm out. I'm still thinking about the Bermuda Triangle, because you can get a cruise that go through there. And I'm like, what happened to that? Amelia Earhart. Don't make me do that. Don't make me do that. Where is that girl? What happened? Where is that girl? What happened? See, that's what I'm talking about. Where is that girl? I'm done. Now I gotta... All right, that's it. Thanks for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. 1 second. Claims of responsibility. On March 9th, 2014, members of the Chinese news media... I'm still on Malaysia Flight 370. Members of the Chinese news media reviewed an open letter that claimed to be from the leader of the Chinese Martyrs Brigade, a previously unknown group. The letter claimed that the loss of Flight 370 was in retaliation for the Chinese government's response to the knife attacks at Kunming Railway Station on March 1st, 2014, and part of the wider, separatist campaign against Chinese control over Xinjiang province. Listen, the letter also listed unspecified grievances against the Malaysian government. The letter's claims were dismissed as fraudulent based on its lack of detail regarding the flight of 370 and the fact that the name, quote, Chinese Martyrs Brigade, unquote, appeared inconsistent with the... Look, nah, that's it. I'm out. They can't find... They don't know what happened. That's it. We all know what happened with 9/11. People got up that morning. We all saw it. They got ready to go. And it happened. It happened. So I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if somebody hijacked that stuff. I don't know if the pilot wanted to end it. You never know. And it makes me wonder how often, just like police officers, how often are you being evaluated psychologically? I think police officers need mandatory evaluations like every 2 years. I'll say every 2 years. I'll give it 2 years. It could be a year. I'll say every 2 years. Doctors. You know what I find strange? Doctors don't have to take drug tests. But let you go down to the so-and-so and you ain't gonna get nan job because you done popped up somewhere on something. But that doctor can cut on your body and they can't even see a straight line in their face. They can't even cut a straight line and they on you. They on you. And that is weird to me that a physician does not have to be drug tested. But you go try to get you a job somewhere else. They're like, yeah, but no. Why? Because A, B, and C. It's like, oh, all right. That's it. My name is Erica LaShawn. Thanks for listening. I think that's it. And goodbye.